In society, there's this negative thinking that healthy food is correlated with feeling empty and not fulfilled, and you'll still be hungry, and you can only eat bland food and just really not fulfilling. Whereas healthy food is the exact opposite. Healthy food is way more fulfilling than junk food. If you think about coming home to a frozen TV dinner versus real steak and potatoes, or grilled chicken and green beans, or just a scrumptious homemade meal, the healthy food is always going to win out over any kind of fake food, including junk food. And yes, junk food may taste maybe more flavorful because of chemicals added and added sugar and stuff like that. But once you get used to eating healthy food, and then you go back to eating junk food or you have a taste of it, you will start to be able to taste those chemicals, and it will taste like what it actually is, like chemicals, or like way too much sugar to the point where it's not natural, and you'll start to prefer healthy food over the junk food. The key to associating healthy food with feeling full and having tasty food and really liking it and enjoying it is to eat food that you like but is also healthy. So eat healthy food, but you have to make sure that it's tasty and that you like it. Otherwise, you'll get this negative association that healthy food isn't good and is bland and leaves you hungry. And that's not what we want to do. We want to associate in your mind healthy food with feeling full, with enjoying it, with being really, really tasty. And once that association can connect in your head, you'll never want to go back to junk food. You want the association of healthy food with all positive things, and we want to get out the negative things. And we do that by transitioning to eating healthy, but only eating foods that are healthy that we actually like. When people go on diets, a lot of times they eat food that they wouldn't usually eat or that they don't even prefer. Maybe someone doesn't like mushrooms, but because they have read or heard that mushrooms were really high in protein or something and that it's really healthy, they eat it. But the problem with that is that if you don't like something, that is your person. That's your unique personality and your preference. And it won't last long term if you try to eat things that you don't like because it goes against who you very are. And if you think about animals in the wild, they don't ever eat anything they don't like. In fact, they only eat what they like, and they have certain foods that they prefer, and they really enjoy their food. They never go on diets, and they especially don't eat food they don't like. So if you ever try to give a cat vegetables, you will come to find very quickly that they prefer meat. They love all kinds of meats, and they will not touch fruit or vegetables. If you give a squirrel a nut, a walnut, or a peanut, they will love you forever. I used to feed squirrels on my porch, and 7 a.m. every morning they were out there because I fed them nuts. I fed them what they needed and what they loved, and animals know what they love because it's instinctive. Squirrels need nuts in the wild because in the winter they need that extra layer of fat to shield from the cold weather, and so they just kind of know that they need healthy fats in food. Likewise, cats know that they need meat because their digestive systems are that of carnivores, and so they have a very short intestinal tract, and protein or meat takes a very short time to break down and digest, and so it needs that short intestinal tract because it doesn't take that long to be absorbed and to digest. Whereas if the meat were in a very long intestinal tract, it can rot quickly because it just digests quickly and it still has a long way to go in that intestinal tract. So it can end up rotting. And that's what happens in human bodies because humans' intestinal systems are more designed like that of herbivores, whereas we have a really long small intestine. If you were to take it out and stretch it out, it goes about 20 feet or so. And so it's really long. And the reason it's so long is because that is the system that herbivores need. herbivores eat plants, and plants take a long time to digest and break down because of the cell wall, but also because there's so many nutrients in plants. There's so many vitamins and minerals because it comes straight from the ground, and it takes a long time for the body to absorb all of that stuff. So it needs a long intestinal tract to be able to have the time to absorb everything. So when humans eat meat, it can actually rot in their intestines, and there's something called diverticulitis, if I said that right, diverticulitis, that is where meat can get stuck in pockets in your small intestine and kind of just rot because humans actually are designed to eat plants and plant-based foods. We are more like herbivores, and plants generally are more healthier for humans to eat. Now, that doesn't mean that a human can't eat meat. I'm not a vegetarian, and I don't tell people to be vegetarians. I love meat. Fish is especially so good for you. Fish has all kinds of oils and fats that are really, really good for you. They're called your omega 3s and your omega 6s. However, I don't eat a lot of animal meat, not only because I know that the system is better with plants, but also because, contrary to popular belief, we don't need that much animal meat. For some reason, especially in the US, it's kind of drilled into our heads with all the advertisements and with the medical field telling you that you need meat at every single meal. You don't need meat at every single meal. In fact, most cultures in the world only eat meat as a luxury a couple times a week, unless they live near a port or the sea where there's a lot of fish, and then those cultures generally eat a lot of fish. But like I said, fish is really, really good for you. So the human body just doesn't need that much meat, especially at every meal. We do not need meat at every meal. Now, protein is different from meat. Meat comes from animal muscle and animals, whereas protein as the category itself is just amino acids. And protein is found in a lot of vegetables. You would be surprised. Mushrooms and peas and spinach, there's a lot of protein in vegetables because protein is not necessarily meat. It's just amino acids. And you can find those in vegetables, you can find it in nuts, you can find it in animal meat. Animal meat does have a lot of protein, but it's not the only source. And if you regularly eat a lot of vegetables, you will by far get your level of protein that you need. People think that vegetarians or people who don't eat meat are really lacking in protein, but it's really not the case as long as they're eating vegetables and nuts, which they usually do because they're not eating animal meat as much.